Freedom Builders fam, it's Anna Powell. I am relatively new to the group, but I am jumping 2 feet in and teaching a class on Friday at Tina's office at 11. If you have read the description and think, in what world would I go to a theater class when I'm a real estate agent, I just wanted to take a second to explain to you why we're teaching this class. So I have a background in the arts. I was a musical theater major. I use my degree every day because theater arts training, I truly do believe, is relative to life training. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down 2 pieces. We're going to work on vocal production, especially if you're on the phones regularly. You know that this, in a lot of ways, is our moneymaker. So I'm going to show you how to keep it healthy, how to make good sound, how to be sure that you're conveying the information you need vocally. And then number 2, we're going to work on body work because a ton of us convey a lot of information in our bodies that we have no idea that we're conveying. So we're going to talk about a neutral body and how to be sure that you're not conveying misinformation with your body, or how you can use your body, right, to convey what you want to clients, to other agents, whoever it may be that you're working with in the field. I am very, very excited to teach this class. One of the reasons why I joined you guys is because you have so much information that you're so willing to share. So I'm really excited to bring a little piece of my background, be able to share it with you to help propel your business. I promise it won't be weird. It will be super fun, super interactive. So please come meet me Friday. I look forward to seeing y'all and helping you in these 2 departments of your business.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? It's too early. It's still.
All right, well, I'm living on the edge with 7% battery, so if my screen goes down, I've got it on my phone. But I'm Anna. I haven't met you. I think I've seen most of you before. Just a little bit about me. I'm from here, born and raised in Piquet, went to Elon University, got a degree in musical theater, which my parents told me not to because I would never use it. And following graduation, worked in the arts for about 4 years. So I'm a constant character actor is what I've called myself. So anyways, this is kind of my background. And as I got into real estate, my whole thing was how can I continue to use this degree? And what I realized is that life skills and theater skills are so interconnected. And so as a result, we would do this in college. We would go and meet with doctors and lawyers and anyone that's kind of in a professional setting and say, hey, here's some skills that we take out of our background that you can now apply to what you do, because we're constantly conveying information with all of our gestures and our eyes and our body shapes and the way that we speak and all of these things. So we would go to doctors that were brilliant, had no bedside manner, like could not understand why they weren't conveying information to patients well. They were saying all the things you needed to say, but like no one's picking up what you're putting down because you have no bedside manner. So we worked with them, worked with attorneys, especially in trials, right? Because that whole closing arguments, I mean, that is a monologue in itself. So what we kind of realized is that there was a lot of applicable pieces to theater that we can send over into our professional lives. And for me, what was really interesting is the fact that we were using these professionals that had no idea that they were, needed all these skills and where you can glean them. We would have kids that I would teach after college. Their parents would be like, "Are they good enough to go to Broadway?" I'd be like, "I don't know." Probably not. And they would be like, "Well, should we push them into soccer?" Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, you can if you want to, but the whole point here is whether you take arts training all the way through or not, it's an incredible life skills like development piece. And so these are just some of the things that I think I took away as a theater major that I've been able to use every single day in this profession. So for sure, we're going to do like a little bit of interactive stuff today. It might feel a little weird, but we're theater kids, so it's a little weird anyway. So first off, we're going to talk about sound production. I'm sure most of you speak all the time, right? We all tend to do that. Especially in this season right now with all of the sickness that's been going around, all the upper respiratory stuff that's going around. I mean, it's an instrument that we have to take care of, so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But first off, just go ahead and stand up, because if you sit down and we don't get interactive early, this is going to go poorly. Yeah, so just get comfortable.
Private theater history, so
So the first thing we're talking about is how you produce sound, right? And so a lot of us, where do you feel like when you start making noise, where do you feel like it originates from? Just point on your body. Where does it feel like it comes from? Yeah, there's some people that know. Yeah, sometimes you get people that are like, here. And I'm like, oh no, so bad. Here, it really actually, the whole process starts way down here. And you don't even know it probably. So go ahead and put your hands around kind of this midsection. As females, sorry guys, you can do whatever you want, but as females, we're always trained to kind of keep ourselves small, right? Like it's a problem. And I think in this case, you have to kind of let that go, because you're not going to produce what you need to produce until you really start expanding through here. So underneath your rib cage, right, you have this incredible muscle called a diaphragm. There's a picture of it. Basically, all the diaphragm does is it causes all of your internal organs to push down when you breathe correctly so that your lungs can actually drop, expand, and fill into your chest. So in order to do that, you've got to expand from here. So if you grab right here and start taking some breaths and see if you can't start pushing out in through here. What you're probably feeling, how many of you are feeling your shoulders rising? You're losing so much potential by taking in air up here. Got to take it in from down here. So wiggle your shoulders around a little bit. Really think about expanding your center. Make some noise on your breath out. Feel any different? It's like yoga. It's you want to take yoga. Yeah, it's like yoga practice as well. So all your sound generates right here. So when you find yourself in that call where you can't get someone to break in and you're feeling like you're just constantly pushing to get that air out, really take those seconds and make sure that you're pushing down and not up, because everything's going to hang out here if you keep pushing up. So that diaphragm is super important. Go ahead and have a seat for a second. We'll jump back up in a minute and do some body work. But that is the most important thing that you can do. And I'll tell you, one of the best tricks of the trade, I think, in the mornings when you wake up, start breathing that way. Before you even get out of bed, take a few minutes to just breathe that way, let your body get comfortable with it, get started with it. And absolutely, before you start making sound in the morning, one of the things I always do, especially if I know I'm going to have a lot of appointments, I'll take in those deep breaths and I'll follow it out with a, can everyone make that noise? Before you even start talking in the morning, the best way you can protect your instrument is to start generating sound that direction, because you're not putting any kind of strain on the vocal folds. So I use that every morning. My husband loves it. That's what we accept here.
Just so you know, Amber Barefoot says her choir heart is smiling right
now. Oh, yay! Okay, so for those of you that don't know how you actually make sound, the reason that you need all of that air is because the way you produce sound is your vocal folds are going to sit there and vibrate against each other. So think about it this way. If you don't have enough air, you don't have enough lubrication to get those things moving properly. Do you know when I talk about vocal fry? Does everyone know what that sounds like? It sounds like this, and like it's terrible to listen to because, but like, how many videos do you see of people like on the internet, like we talk like that for like 20 minutes?
It sounds like they've been at a concert all weekend.
It kills me. Like literally, there's a girl I listen to in South Carolina that does like a true crimes podcast, and she's like, I know you guys don't like my vocal fry, but this is my voice, and I can't help it. Yes, you can. You can help it. We can fix it. So the air is this lubrication that comes and hits these vocal folds. So that's why if you don't have enough air, you really can do a lot of damage onto those folds, especially if you're talking a lot, which I, again, guilty as charged. We're realtors. We're doing it a lot. So really making sure that, you're getting that center, you're getting that air, and you're pushing all that sound through can be super helpful. And I think, for me, I'm really guilty when I'm talking to someone. I'll get kind of winded. I'll get kind of like, caught up in what I'm talking about. And it's just really good to remember that centering, right? To be able to go back to that belly breathing, what we call it. If you want to do something really creepy, you can go Google babies breathing, because actually babies breathe correctly. We breathe incorrectly as we get older. We start breathing less efficiently. So if you go Google babies breathing, you can watch. It's amazing, because their bellies just blow up and then come back down, and blow up and come back down. But as adults, we start getting all of our air up here in the chest. It's just not efficient. So, any questions on that?
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because we want to look thinner?
I don't know where it comes from. I think some of it's laziness. I do think women especially, I think, can be very, very guilty of that, because you're trying to stay small, right?
And all those women now, like walking around with like the sweat, like corsets on and stuff. I see them all the time. Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that I think some of it just becomes laziness. It becomes habit. You think that you can, a lot of us feel like we have more control if it's up here. But, a lot of really great singers that have had to have, major reconstructive surgery on their vocal folds because they just didn't do this properly. Adele's a really good example of that. So that was why she retired, basically, because she was, taking her air in from here and just fried those cords. So, speaking is very aggressive, especially the way we do it, I think, because I'm constantly feel like I'm on when I'm speaking. Like right now, this is how I feel like I speak all the time. So, for me, it's really being able to understand that I've got to have the breath to keep everything healthy. And and it's really easy to let that go. So, any other questions? Cool. So this is really important, especially if you're doing, does anyone do a lot of calls? I don't cold call very much, but if you do call, this is super important because you've got a whole nother barrier in front of you. So we talked about how the sound comes up. We understand that the vocal folds start to push together, but I think if you've never thought about this, this is one of those light bulb things for me. This is actually kind of a diagram of where all of our major letters in the English alphabet come from. So let's all get a ha out. Ha. You feel it? Where is it? Yeah.
It's glottal.
It's way down, super down. Ha. Then let's switch over all the way and let's go to a, well, I like to go with progression. Let's go to a k and a g. Just try k and g. K. It's pretty good math, right? It's really definitely on the back. Move over to your j. So go k, j. What happened to your mouth? It moves forward, right? Yeah. Go from j to, let's do a d. D. J. D.
All the way.
You're moving more forward, right? Z. Z is a really good one right there. Z. Z. Then we'll go to a f. Try a z to a f. Z. F. You got even more forward, yeah? Okay, now we'll go from a v to a p. V. P.
Like it moves the other way.
Have you ever thought about?
No.
It's so weird, right?
Yeah.
Super weird. Yeah. This was to me like one of those things where when I started studying this, I was like, this is so crazy. I can't believe this. Yeah, this was huge for me because what I found was that I am bad about maybe not accentuating some of these letters very well that are already way back, right? You're not going to have a hard time, especially on, in person, getting a p, a b, a m out because it's so far forward. But you get on a call, you got a lot of H's, you got whatever it may be. These are the syllables that you've got, or these letters that you've got to start pushing out a little bit harder. To me, getting into that 7-6, the j's, the k, the g, those need a little bit more emphasis just because they're a little bit more buried in your voice. Yeah.
So is that why my throat hurts after like 2 hours of talking here? Am I just putting too much of it here?
You're probably honestly just not giving those cords enough lubrication. But in order really to get these sounds out, it requires so much more air as well anyways, right? So the root of any vocal fatigue, always air. Always air. Always air. And usually just waking up in the morning, maybe hopping on calls before you've taken a chance to really warm your instrument up, and we can do some of those in the end, some of those examples. But yeah, anytime if vocal fatigue's overuse or improper air, always. Those are my only two go-tos.
So if you're if you speak a different language like Jennifer here, I see number 5
Yeah.
and 3. My husband is German too.
Yeah.
So if I try to say anything in German, he'll say, that's a good American accent.
Yeah.
What sounds do you know what sounds would be 5 and 3?
Not off the top of my head. We've got a lot of the Slavic stuff, like the Russian stuff is not in our alphabet at all. German, we tend to overlap because we all have that romantic background. We all come from Roman languages. But when you get into some of the stuff that's outside of that romantic language, you start seeing more syllables that or letters that we don't even have or have anything close to.
Are the same locations used in different languages? Like if you would pronounce, I don't know, a K in another language or a C, or when they have their combination letters, are those in different spots too, or is it just for English?
This is for English. Yeah, okay. These places are English, although I'm certain, just again, with those romantic languages, they have a lot of the same origin, right? So they've all developed. A lot of them are sitting in the same syllables because when you're a vocal performance major especially, you tend to do most of your training in foreign languages, and here's why. You don't know how to shape your mouth if you are speaking a language you don't know. So I can go in with a voice student, I can get them into French or Italian, and they're going to listen to exactly how I tell them to sing it because they don't know, because they can't speak it, right? So we use a lot of foreign language, and I would say for the most part, everything's still sitting in the same places in those languages.
It's so interesting that you said that because I am from Colombia originally, and I've been living in the United States for a long time, but it's so interesting that when I'm speaking in Spanish, I never get tired. But when I'm speaking in English, I get exhausted.
I'm just singing in different places.
So yeah, when it's shock, Yeah. Because I'm like, I can tell it's is what you're saying.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the reason why we train our singers in foreign languages, is because we can really, really shape and develop how they pronounce things and make sure that their mouth placement is exactly as it's supposed to be, because they don't have any preconceived notions of this is how I say this word.
Yeah.
It's why it killed me when I was teaching, because I would have 13-year-old teeny boppers that came in and wanted to sing, The Little Mermaid. And I was like, I can't teach you anything singing this, because you're not going to listen to me, because you've heard it your whole entire life 5 million times, and you're going to mimic. So the foreign languages helps us get out of that.
Yeah, I took vocal. I was a vocal major,
Yeah.
and mainly in opera.
Yeah.
So we did German last, because I was already very dark, right? That's what they call it. It's very glottal. It's all the way back here. So my teacher made me start with Italian first, and then we worked our way back. So Italian, French, and then German.
Yeah, it definitely sits different. It sits different places.
Yeah, I was very all in here.
Yeah, but with this kind of stuff, I think the best application is, when you're having these conversations, I know it may sound very silly to you to really hit some of these consonants very hard, but on the phone especially, it can make a huge difference, because you look at how far back some of this stuff is in your mouth already, and then you're trying to get it through another medium. So to me, this was a like, oh, this is great. This is something I can use every single day. So there you go. Any questions? Any more questions? Let's roll through. So some applicable practices, right? The vocal fry thing. Like, again, you can absolutely get rid of it. All it is just more breath. So if you hear yourself starting to taper off, or you're getting sick, it's more breath. I will say some of my best performances in college were on the verge of strep throat or on the verge of some kind of sickness, because then instead of just muscling through it, I was like, okay, let me do what I'm really supposed to do, right? And I kind of let that take over. So you can lose that vocal fry. I'm not saying anyone here has it, but if you ever self-identify and you're like, oh my gosh, I have vocal fry, you can fix it. It's not your voice. It's not a problem. It's got to be there forever. And then let's go through a couple of quick warm-ups. Like I said, the best thing you can do truly is just those lip bobblings, because it's pushing all the air, but it's putting no strain. Like she's talking about, I'm very glottal as well. It's putting no strain on your folds, because the air is just passing through. That is one of the best ways to start your day, because it's going to warm everything up without putting any stress on your cords whatsoever. The other thing that I think is really good is, if you look at the mouth, let me back up and show you kind of the mouth here. So you have above your teeth, right into this area right here, you have a nasal cavity. And that is actually, if you think about going into a cave and producing sound, right, it kind of echoes around you. Your nasal cavity does that for yourself. An E vowel will really help you tap into that. So if you really want to kind of warm your voice, an E vowel is excellent to start on. And you can just sit around doing this. You're all going to do it now, because I told you to. Just try it. Just try the E. You should start feeling it get higher and higher in your face. But you should actually, when you start doing it correctly, you should start to feel this part of your face truly start like vibrating almost, because it will be so further in your nasal cavity. But that can give your voice a lot of warmth and a lot of richness that sometimes if you don't have that warmed, you can't tap into. It's one of the harder places to kind of get that resonance from. It just makes you sound a little sparklier. So I think that's a good term for it, a little sparklier. And then keeping your instrument healthy. So again, warming that voice up in the mornings before you hop on 10,000 calls. I think that's super important. I'm really guilty, especially like Sunday mornings on the way to church. If I haven't warmed up my instrument, I'll grab a cup of coffee. Coffee can be really misleading, because you'll have this sense of like, oh, I've warmed seriously, a warm beverage. You'll be like, oh, I've warmed everything up. It's fine. Don't skip some of your vocal exercises for coffee in the mornings. I'm guilty about it on Sundays myself. And really just, when you start to get sick, I can't say the power enough of like getting some nasal spray, some saline spray very early, shooting it up the nose. I hear you can buy it where it actually squirts itself. I grew up with like a straw, like salt. It's terrible. But now you can actually, I think, buy the little thing, the neti pot, all of that stuff. When you feel like that starting to set on, I cannot tell you how important it is to jump on it early, because you need to dry all that stuff out so you don't have the drainage, so that your cords don't get bombarded. And I know that's a huge deal, because when you're sick, you have to have conversations with clients. Ugh, it feels awful. It was awful. I lost my voice earlier this year, which was hilarious, and like literally could hardly talk, but still had to talk, right? And I was so anxious every time I had to pick up the phone and talk to someone because I couldn't say what I needed to say, which was awful. So really keeping everything again, really hydrated, lots of water. A lot of this was my voice teacher would always tell me, a lot of your like Tylenol, cold and sinus, a lot of the drugs that you'll pick up will actually dehydrate you faster. And really all this needs is more hydration. So just stick to the nasal sprays and stick to the water when you first get sick, and usually can knock it out. At least so that it doesn't affect you vocally. You may feel like terrible, but vocally this is a good way to get around it. So there we go. Any questions on the voice stuff? We're going to do body work quickly. Helpful?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we convey a lot of information with our bodies. If you've been watching me, you can see I'm literally doing something right now. Right? I did this because I asked you if it was helpful or not, and I was very nervous that you were going to say, this is terrible and it's not useful to me at all. So in return, I bundled myself up and put my hands in front of myself to protect myself. Dead serious, that's what just happened. Do you see it? I asked you how it's going, and I'm waiting for your response.
It's great.
Thanks. 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 I mean, literally everything we do with our hands, our feet, our eyes, our shoulders is conveying information 24/7. So the biggest thing that I can help y'all do is kind of understand that this exists and try to help you get into what we're going to call body neutrals. I can't fix everything in one session. If I could, I would be better at what I do. But I can handle this. So the biggest thing is, and this is my favorite example of kind of how we perceive body language, Superman is perfectly symmetrical, right? Like that's the image that you think of Superman with those like squared off symmetrical arms. For whatever reason in society, we have decided that that's good. And then the broken body, right, which this witch from Snow White always reminded me of it, the broken body is absolutely what we affiliate with that. Broken versus symmetrical, broken versus symmetrical. So you may insert all of that into your body every day and have no idea, but what I'd like to do today is teach you how just to get to neutral, right? I can't fix everything, but I can show you how to assume what we call a body neutral so you can be more aware of what you're doing. So go ahead and pop back up and we'll walk through this. This is gonna seem stupid because you're like, I'm just standing up, but walk through it piece by piece. And if you've taken a yoga, I mean, I'm sure most of you all have taken a yoga class, you're gonna kind of be familiar with this stance. But you really start with those feet, really anchoring them down into the floor, making sure that you've got all of your toes meeting your shoe or the floor, whatever you've got. And really just start working your way up. So I find, and I may be wrong, I find from the hips down, it's usually pretty easy to get into alignment. I don't have a lot of problem with that. So you just work it through your knees. Your knees should have a little bit of softness to them, right? So that you're not just locked up in a straight position, but your knees should have a little bit of softness. Make sure though, like you're taking all of the pressure out of your like glutes and your backside, right? Because I have a tendency to like lock that up even when my knees are soft. Just really making sure that there's a softness there. And then when you get through this like center section, that's where I think you can really start to recognize some of your deficiencies. Making sure that your lower ribs, right, meeting there, you might just give yourself a little side to side shake. Get them at rest. You're gonna wanna pull your shoulders up, back and down. And then the hardest part to me, once you get past these shoulders, you may have to work on them a little bit just to get them where they need to be, is your face. Finding a neutral in your face. So you gotta let go of all your jaw tension first off. And just go ahead and roll it around a little bit. And go ahead and pull out your nose a little bit. Do one of those. Lift your eyebrows a little bit.
Somebody should be videoing
Yeah, drop them. Anybody feel any more relaxation since we've walked through this? And then just think about the crown of the head, just really staying parallel to the ceiling, right? So you're not slightly up or slightly down. You guys look great. Good job. Yeah, see? Yeah. So the thing about body neutral is if you know what it looks like on you, and you probably don't because you're not looking at yourself in a mirror. So my challenge would be go home and look at a body neutral so that you know that you can get to it, right? So when you find yourself in these circumstances where you've like knotted your arms all up, or you've made this gesture, or you've crossed a leg, or you've done something awkward that you know, like, hey, I can go back to this and I'm not conveying anything, which is nice because you don't want to convey something you don't mean to.
That's what we asked you about commission. Just go blank.
Yeah. But what's your commission? Body neutral. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those
I'm
where
gonna
you
see
can.
that next week at your presentation.
Freeze.
All right, just FYI.
Yeah, it's finding this body neutral and knowing what it feels like in your body, because I can't tell you what it feels like in yours. I just know what it feels like in mine, and it's comforting to know that in any circumstance, if I need to make an adjustment, I can go here and I'm back to where I need to be to move forward. And that's what I really like about using this and knowing it, especially when you're meeting someone. Because I'm bad, you all can sit down, come to rest, unless you enjoy standing right neutral.
What's the power stance when you respond to?
Well,
What's the ROI?
yeah, we're gonna talk about it because it's different for every person, right? Like Liana just did that and you look amazing. If I do that, I feel like I look like a first class idiot. Like, because it's not in my body language, right? So that's where you have to spend a lot of time in a mirror, which no one wants to do, but you have to really spend some time looking. But yeah, I mean, there is something associated with this. There's a reason why every realtor sign is this. There's a reason why. It's a common thing. It's like a power symbol. However, I'll tell you that in my opinion, anytime you're putting something between you and the person, I don't think it's conveying the same. But this is the go-to stance, right?
And in like a sitting position.
Yeah.
If we're across the table.
Yeah.
Is there a neutral? Neutral does not feel natural.
Neutral to
me.
you, natural. Yeah.
Right. So I'm very cognizant of not trying to cross my hands, right? So I try to but I have to do something with my hands because I'm very demonstrative as well.
Same.
I feel like I can show them that I'm not happy.
I don't know what to do with my
darling
hands.
fingers.
Yeah.
So I tend to clasp and put down or cross actually my legs when I'm standing up because I'm more
Do it all the
neutral. So that to me is like, okay, that's like inside my power stance and I'm getting ready to brace for whatever I get ready to say, but I feel like it doesn't look like I'm angry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what are some other.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're crossing something or anytime you're kind of putting a body part in between you and the person, I mean, in theory, what you're conveying is either an insecurity or a desire to be separated, right? I mean, that's where our minds are gonna go. Okay. Do I stand like, sorry, you can't see me. Do I stand like this half the time of my day? Absolutely I do.
But you're not insecure, but you're not conveying insecurity to me.
Well, thank you.
She's feeling
Thank you.
I guess so.
Yeah, I think that my thing is, and when people know me, right, and I've been in a place for a while and I've established a rapport, I could probably stand on my head and they wouldn't think very much of it. This really becomes super applicable when you're talking about that kind of 3-minute elevator pitch, right? You've got a certain amount of time to capture someone's interest, to convince to them that you are reliable, that you are trustworthy, that you can be helpful. This isn't so much like, hey, I'm talking to my mom and I need to think about how my mom feels this is really like, hey, Mr. Seller that just walked into this appointment, whatever it may be, let me be sure that I'm just establishing what I need to establish at this onset meeting, right? And then move on.
Would you say this is like the baseline of communication? And then as you get to know people, you have layers because you start understanding the way that they present themselves.
Yeah. It's like, I have a client right now who has the weirdest sense of sarcasm and I don't ever know what to do. Like the other day he's like, yeah, and I know him fairly well. He literally was like, yeah, I think it's the right thing to do. We'll just call, 2 or 3 other people and just double check things. And I kind of was like,
What? Yeah.
Just completely joking. It was not even real, but the sarcasm never landed on me because I didn't think that was sarcasm because I didn't interpret it that way. So this is one of those, exactly right. Like you're establishing a baseline, right? You're building that trustworthiness at the get-go. And then, yeah, absolutely. When you're on your 5th showing and you're over there cocked back with your legs crossed, it's not a big deal. I think this is really think about that elevator speech period.
Stay as neutral as possible at the beginning.
Yeah, stay as neutral or whatever it is that you want to convey, right? I mean, that's not saying you have to leave your hands out of it. It's just saying make sure that if you want to convey that you're a welcoming person, that you're doing that and that you're not inadvertently thinking by standing this way that you're inviting them to pick your brain.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if a stranger comes up to you on the street, it's okay to be like,
Right.
Yeah. Because we're all picking up on it. So, okay, this is a little bit of an interactive session. So I think we have an even number. Yeah. what I'd like to do, just to start kind of watching how people use it, right, is we're going to do a mirroring exercise, right? So like you probably did this when you were a kid. So you're just going to turn to the person next to you. Whoever is on the left, you'll have a conversation and just use your hands as you do. And I want the other person to just literally body mimic that person talking about whatever it is they're talking about.
I think that you're mine.
Oh, you have to sit. You can sit. Yeah. Join sitting and we can stand the second you're
I'm just mirroring her.
Yeah. That's how we start. Oh, you want to? Yeah. Today I had a class. And it was really great, and I really enjoyed myself, and I hope that everyone learned something from it. I'm sure they did. I hope that they did. And I really have enjoyed being here. I really enjoyed my time here and what I've been doing, and I hope you're not copying my eye gestures because I just completely scared you by listening to this. And I'm completely, don't want to really talk to you, so I'm going to look in this direction.
I find that I do this a lot. Like I break my leg on time. I know that I was trying to over here thinking my next, yeah, and I wish I didn't do it.
It's almost like I'm trying to get that straight.
Otherwise I get anxious about my work.
Same.
And like I always worry about always
And you know what it is. It's like playing time on the script, right?
so when I feel that you're saying
Yeah.
you're not listening,
That's
I
it.
notice my conversation.
No, she's valid. And that's a training. So I'm gonna say, hey guys, I'm gonna stop you for a second. You guys are doing amazing. One thing, be sure you're mirroring, because we were just talking about this, eyes, right? So if their eyes shoot up to the left or their eyes divert you, make sure you divert the eyes too. Keep going. Pay attention to the eyes. That's one thing that we forget about.
Supposed to be more animated than normal?
No.
Oh,
No.
well, I was like doing all
Yeah.
this.
No, you can, well, just,
That's
I mean,
not my natural.
yeah, no, do what's natural to you. Yeah, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to see what you do.
Alice Ann's over here, like.
Well, I thought she was like,
No, just be a little bit more normal. And you can stand up for this one, because you may do some things differently when you're standing. Standing up this one.
Oh, okay.
I feel like people are more comfortable with
Yeah, nice here. I'm like obsessed with you guys. Okay, you guys can stop whatever awkward conversations I forced you to have. Okay. Did you learn it? Did anyone see something that made them laugh? Or something funny? Did you see something funny?
He couldn't talk when he felt like I was watching him.
Yeah.
But people are watching you talk all the time, right?
Yeah.
Now he's like, I'm never gonna talk again.
Yeah.
I don't know, but as soon as I did something, he would like lose track. Like, it was just like, I'm like, he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm supposed to.
This is far more painful than just going into your own bedroom and literally having a conversation with yourself in front of your mirror to like watch what you do. This is far more painful because then someone's interpreting it and spitting it back to you, right?
Yeah.
How about the eye contact? Did that change anything once I told you to really? Everyone was really making good eye contact.
I like completely lost all focus and I was hyper-aware of her hands and then my hands, and then I kind of just held them still.
That's what you did. You was like awkward. It's super awkward. It's super awkward because someone's literally mimicking you actually being awkward, right? I thought to mention the eye thing because I have a really bad tendency, and we both were saying this, and I think it came from like having so much time in scripts, right? Being a theater major, that like when I'm starting to search for words, I will break eye contact with you, and I will look in the world's most awkward place, which is usually like the top left of my vision, all the time. So bad at it.
But
So bad. So bad.
that's how I think though.
Yeah, me too.
If I'm staring at the person, I'll forget what I'm saying.
Right.
But if I look to the side, I can like
Yeah,
go in
right,
over
same.
it.
And that's true for us
Same.
too.
Yeah.
But we
And
recognize that
again-
it's better to keep contact with your eyes on
Yeah,
somebody.
Someone's
Interesting.
Yeah, Tina's really
Oh.
good at that.
Oh.
Like she
When-
doesn't break contact with people.
doesn't.
And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you know you're like
Okay,
a master
we have
in
a
sales.
realization. If you look to the left, you're thinking.
You're thinking.
If you look to the right,
is this someone's lying? to
someone's
you?
lying to you.
Because you're creating, you are making up.
Oh, I get it. Left brain, right brain. Yeah, I do it too. And again, here, like when my husband's asking me a question and I have to think about it, absolutely, I'm gonna look up to the left. When I'm standing here in front of a group of people, right, I need to be able to realize that like I shouldn't do that. And it's not so much that you shouldn't do any of these things. These things are all fine. Just make sure you're doing them in a place where it's fine to do them, right? That makes sense. It's just being aware that you do them and knowing where to plug and play them, right? If you're on autopilot because it's Saturday and you're at Home Depot and this is real life and your husband can't remember the measurements he took down for that freaking piece of trim work that you've measured out 4 times, absolutely. Stand like this and be as ugly as you want to.
What does this mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it means just that.
I'm just thinking.
Yeah, but it's being aware so that you can pull that stuff out when you need to pull it out. Yeah, and I think that's the challenge because we get so comfortable in our own bodies, and I tend to think if you're in this profession, you're pretty comfortable with yourself because you have to kind of put yourself out there. So I think you can even be more exaggerated on some of this stuff just because we're pretty confident folks. So then it's not just that you're doing this, it's that you're probably doing it 2 times bigger than an average person would because you feel confident in the space that you're in and what you're doing. So that's my big thing is I like to take it out. We'll do one more silly exercise and then we'll let y'all wrap. I call this one spaghetti. It's really funny. So everyone's gonna take an emotion and stand up in front of the group, say the word spaghetti, and I want you to use both your body and your voice to convey some kind of emotion. Don't tell us what your emotion is and let us see if we can figure out what you're trying to convey with your body and your voice by saying the word spaghetti. I'll give you an example. Spaghetti.
You're scared.
Yeah.
They're terrified. I don't know what spaghetti did to you, but you don't like it.
And you really needed 3 spaghettis. Spaghetti. Spaghetti. Spaghetti.
Yay!
Sure.
Great.
Let me think about what I want to
Sure.
convey.
Yeah, so think about your emotions. Okay. Really tap into them. Can you tell again? I'm nervous how this exercise is going to go. Do you know why? Because I'm in class.
You're nervous about me?
No, I'm just nervous in general and how the reception of my game spaghetti will go. So look what I'm doing with my hands.
Yeah,
But you have to
we'll see.
stand up at the front.
Yeah, you gotta look.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Needs to be true performance.
That's right.
We're all not going up there, right?
Oh, yeah, we are.
Just the theater maybe.
Okay.
Mine was more obvious, but yeah. Spaghetti.
Oh.
Jennifer, she's got a Spanish accent.
Yeah.
It'll make
Yes,
it
that's
sexier.
great.
Oh yeah, I don't know up front.
Make it sexier with your
Oh, I
accent.
don't know about that. I don't know. Let's see. What do I think about when I think about spaghetti?
Make it sexy.
You could be a
With the accent, it'll work.
But then that's not gonna bring an emotion to me because when I think about spaghetti, I'm like spaghetti.
Yes, great. Yeah, that was awesome. Perfect.
Say it 3 times.
And do you know what your body
You have to
did?
do
You
it
went
3
super
times.
symmetrical, right?
Yeah.
You went really symmetrical.
Yeah.
Right? And you got bigger.
But
Because you
have
were
to do it 3
happy
times.
and
You have to
embracing
redo
the
it.
spaghetti.
You have to do it over 3 times.
Spaghetti. Spaghetti. Spaghetti.
I thought that was a good one.
I didn't think it was a good
But see, it reiterates that idea that like symmetry is good, right? Because that was a happy, I'm assuming your emotion was happy or excited, and we saw symmetry and you opened yourself up to us, right? Like you did the opposite of what we did because we had an opposite reaction, right? Lena, do it again.
No?
Yes. You have to do
Oh,
both.
it's so fun.
Not mediating.
Oh, jeez. Just use this because I don't get good service. It's like a dungeon.
I know, I dropped 2 calls and I was like, I think I'll have to call you back.
Oh, boy. I need to think of an emotion.
Yeah.
Okay, you did. I don't want to be in the front unless I'm teaching a class, but okay. Spaghetti. 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 That's how I feel after I eat spaghetti.
Yeah, a little, yes.
Disgusted.
Disappointment, yeah.
I thought it was disgusting.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Okay. And what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloated, uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it was a much smaller gesture, right? Yeah, super small gesture. No, it's good, but that's normal. I mean, that's normal, right? If you were angry, probably spaghetti, right? You got bigger, right? Because you have maybe a larger emotion, right? So your body kind of followed.
So like, how do we translate this into real estate?
This into real estate, I think the big thing here is literally just making sure that when you are standing in front of a client, that you're using these arms and you're using your posture, and you're using your vision, you're using all these things, that you know what you're conveying. And if it is something that is, again, like Mackenzie said, like a little bit more casual, there's absolutely a place for it. You need to decide, is it at my first appointment? Is it, where do I want to plug in my normal body language, and where do I want to be able to get out of it so that I can do what I need to do? Because I can tell you, when you go up to someone and you're meeting with them and their arms are crossed and their eyes are moving around, which I can be guilty of, because I'm a normal person. Like, I get anxious sometimes in like new settings, but just being aware that I'm doing it and knowing how to get out of it, I think is a huge skill set to have.
Should you be mirroring and matching? I mean, because we're always told to mirror and match people, but maybe somebody's receiving that. If they're like this and we're doing that, then maybe they're receiving your closeness.
Just gonna ask that. So we practice mirror matching in our words if we're prospecting, right? If they get angry at you, it's actually good to kind of be loud back to them, and it settles them. So I was like, do we mirror match? If somebody's very direct, and that direct body language is the exact opposite of me. I almost want to do this. Do I need to mirror match that? Because he's looking for me to come back at him in Superman pose, even though I don't feel that way.
No worries.
I got this.
Yeah, I think though that the key there, I think the key there is being able to then be sure that you don't have a reaction, right, that like counters it. That at best you can go back to, again, it sounds so silly, you can go back to that body neutral and just know, okay, I'm safe, I'm in a safe zone right now. I'm not conveying any information with my body right now because I'm standing in this kind of awkward, kind of unnatural stance that we did in class. But like, at least I know right now my body is telling nothing, right? I am pure neutral. And then if you decide, okay, I do want to do some more of that mirroring, then these shapes and this motion is going to be able to convey versus kind of coming back, or even doing the cross leg, right? Because that's an automatic. I mean, it sounds silly, but it is. It's kind of an automatic look of submission, right? Because you're breaking. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in negotiation then, I took a class in that in school. And so it was always neutral. It was like and we were judged on the way we were sitting too. And it was always just, you had to be neutral. Yeah. So I wonder if that like translates into real estate. It's always better just to be neutral, even though it's not easy.
Do you when you have like calls like that with other agents, do you walk around, or do you sit down and take the calls? I always walk when I negotiate. I always walk when I negotiate.
Yeah.
Always.
I think it's easier to walk.
And thank God we do negotiate on the phone, because then I can do whatever I want to with my body. But I tend to walk when I need to.
My voice sounds better when I'm walking. It doesn't sound in negotiations if I'm nervous. It settles. I think it settles my nerves and
you're getting it out by walking.
Yeah.
My voice.
And that's the great part about doing what we do on the phone. Yeah. I mean, that's a nice thing, because we're not usually doing that. I mean, I don't know. I've never sat down with another agent and been like, okay, let's figure this out today. So I've never had to do it so that I was super worried about what I was conveying physically. I can just focus on what I'm conveying vocally. But then so that I can do whatever I need to do to kind of work out that angst. But walking for me makes a huge difference.
What would be a neutral state if you're Zooming? So I was, and I only asked because I was Zooming with Tina with somebody else. So in a three-way, we were all separated. And she texted me. She was like, "You look angry." And I'm like, "I'm listening. I'm processing." But it was very interesting. So then I kept looking at myself and not being obvious. And I'm looking at myself because the person's right there.
I get that too.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not angry. I'm listening, and I'm taking in everything this person's saying to me.
Yeah.
So I just smile. That's so weird.
I know.
Like kind of
Smile and lean forward.
Yeah.
So I guess when I'm thinking hard, I don't smile. Or
I
don't think.
I
just don't think. Just don't listen to what they're saying.
Or not. I'm conscious of that too. Yeah. Because I'm a thinker, and when I'm thinking, people have said you look pissed. And or you have RBF, and I'm like, no, I'm just really
Engaged in
and
here.
processing and taking notes. I'm not having any thought about negative, but I am conscious to smile back, and it feels weird.
I was
And
very.
you can let a lot of that, it sounds really silly, and this is mirror time. All this is you in front of your mirror. Like that's all this is gonna be.
Awesome.
Really just sitting there and saying, okay, how can I lighten and how can I kind of look like I'm engaged without having to do this? Because there's nothing creepier than like that, right?
Let me focus on this, and I won't focus
It's
on
a
what you're
lot
saying.
here. It's a lot here.
Did you hop on the Kelly Brown thing yesterday on the Instagram? Did anybody hear?
No, I wanted to.
So she looked like a flashlight, like, and I was watching her, but I felt myself like this the whole time because she was smiling and her lips were so shiny and her eyes were blue and her teeth were bright, and I was like this the whole time. And I was thinking, does she always look like that? Because she seemed like she always looked like that. So I think some people always look like that, but some people are like us, and we're just like
Or lots of training too. 'Cause she is a
training.
background
Well, that's
in
must be
marketing.
mirror time.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think that's what it is. It's just kind of understanding like what you look like and what you're conveying, and like it's not really fun work to do, but yeah, I think that's a huge part of it.
I thought me being respectful was listening to what he was saying, and and bringing it all in, and she was just like, "You look pissed." I was like, and then she's like, "Now you look awkward." She's like texting me, I'm trying to be like, well, what the hell do you want me to do?
Insert emoji.
Just go print something off the internet and just put it over your
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little paddle.
I stopped.
Yeah.
It's very good timing of that because
I think it's a lot. I mean, I really do. I think it's a lot. I think you have a lot more work from here to here than you actually realize you could do.
And I've got tiny eyes. All right. Anyway,
I think a mirror time.
I was oh sorry. No, I took a this called The Art of Negotiation with Chris Voss. He used to be the #1 negotiator for the FBI. Yeah, it was an amazing course. And he was saying that when you're sitting with someone and you want to convey that message of welcoming, you should lean forward, you should nod all the time, and you should kind of use your hands because that's drawing someone in. And I was like, okay. And the other thing that he was saying is that whether you're smiling or frowning, you train your muscles. Like it, and then you like your normal resting face, like it kind of goes that way. I was like, oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, it becomes easier.
So probably when you see Kelly, you're like,
oh,
oh, she looks so happy all the time. She probably is because she's done it enough, or she naturally looks. Yeah.
So I feel
We were
like
talking about
a good thing to do is just to watch yourself on camera.
Yeah, which I hate.
Yeah.
Which I hate video. Like I hate it. And I think it comes from my theater background that I hate video. I hate it.
Right.
You would think I'd be fine with it. Hate it. Totally different. I can hear my voice on a video and I'll play it back and like that sounds nothing like me. I do not sound like that person whatsoever. And I really do, like because it sounds so awkward to me. I hate it. I hate video. I'm trying to get over it. And some of these things I've been trying to apply. It's like, okay, you know what to do. Just do better. But for me, when I get into those situations where I feel like I am maybe losing some control or feel like I need to get myself a little bit more grounded, I can always come back to this body neutral and I'm like, okay, I know I'm at a safe place and from here I can move forward. And how many of you probably think about that in that moment? It probably doesn't even register, but it's almost like sometimes in hindsight, I go back and think, okay, I could have done this, right? And then it just becomes more and more natural when you start thinking in this mindset of like, my body's conveying information 24/7.
Well, and sometimes your body, you're doing things that you don't even realize how you feel. And then I'm like, oh crap. And then it almost kind of like the whole power posing thing and all that, it totally works. Like before you go in an interview or a meeting, like if you make even if like on the phone, if you make yourself, you get more confidence because your body is telling you, just like they say, if you're not happy, you can smile and you'll end up feeling better.
Right.
So it's that same kind of concept. So I would even argue on the phone, like,
That your
so
body,
big, so you feel more powerful.
So you-
Or
smile
smile when you're prospecting,
Right.
because that's gonna keep
Right.
through.
So maybe get your body right so that you can get your mind right, so that way you can go into a situation
Yeah.
and be
Have you heard the
successful.
trick about the pen? So they're saying like if you're upset or if you're stressed out or if there is something that just by activating the muscles on this part, you trick your brain into creating endorphins. So so you should take a pen and stick it in your mouth and kind of
Wait, what?
Lock it in. Yeah, bite it down, kind of stick it, and then you're unconsciously retraining your brain and saying, no, we're not stressed, we're happy.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's not a leaky
And it
pen.
changes your mood.
I'm gonna drive around for the rest of the day in my mouth. Yeah, I just feel like for me it's one of those where I'm glad I know these things. I don't always practice them as I should, but it's just one of those. I think it's a helpful piece to your toolkit. If you can use it, I hope that it's helpful, and especially with that voice stuff, because it is I said it on my video, like to me it's a moneymaker, right? Because no one can replicate what I have to say. I can't send an admin out to like say what's in my brain, right? I have to do that myself. And if I don't have an instrument to be able to convey it in a healthy, clean way, I think the vocal health is hugely important. So I would just encourage you to really be mindful that that's something you got to take care of, that can deteriorate. And can have
Amber
issues.
again saying that her husband tells her to fix her face all the time, and that she has to remind herself to be neutral and to soften, so that she is more approachable.
Yeah.
We all do, Amber. You're not alone.
But just in the same way, like as the way that I have this tendency of putting something out in front of me and like kind of shifting my weight around, I'm really not anxious in this moment. Like I don't have any anxiety, but it's just it's a defensive thing, right? So no matter what you're conveying, right, it's just nice to be able to know I can get it out, whatever that is that I'm saying. And you probably aren't reading it that way, but if you didn't know me, you hadn't been sitting in here for 30 minutes, and that's all you saw of it, then this may read entirely different. And I'm real bad about this one. And the like weird look to the left. So awkward. So. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you guys are super welcome. My what would be a worthless degree. Every time I can do this, I tell my parents, I'm like, I use my theater degree.
Well, I could talk about how my whole career has been sales and marketing, and because I did theater, I learned how to present in front of people. I learned how to talk to people. Like those are all skills that you need, right? Especially in this job.
Well, and I think too, you get into some of these like improv classes, and like I'm not being funny. Like, I would encourage you to go take a couple, because being able to kind of like react and respond quickly. I mean that they teach you that in those classes. I mean, you learn how to pivot, turn 180 degrees, and do it without a ton of disruption. So I mean, I think all those skills are life skills. So go take some theater classes if you're trying to sharpen your tools.
Is there a way to it's easy to control the body language, but how do you control the tone? So if you're conveying a good message or a negative message. So for example, myself, we were on a call yesterday at Zoom with a buyer, and her wish list was so wonderful, but her price point was not. And so I texted Brandy and I said, I'm about to break her heart right now. And I found in the past that when I deliver the truth, sometimes I lose the client, and then they go work with somebody else who's got this like, okay,
But they have the same adversity you do.
yeah. But so how do I what is it that's different about the tone, or maybe even the delivery of the truth, where if my body language, if I was in front of them, I probably would have been like, that's not really gonna work for 350. But 500, how do you control your tone and delivering that message? Are there any tricks?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things too, just like going back to the pedagogy stuff, like literally, I think if this sounds so silly, but if you can tap a little bit more into that nasal cavity and just resonate your voice a little bit more, you can say whatever you want to, but there's a little bit more sparkle there because it's just got a little bit more resonance to it. Okay. I'm not saying anything great. Your hair looks like shit today, but honestly, like listen to the sparkle, right?
Yeah,
it's going up into that nasal cavity and like allowing that voice to resonate a little bit more. And it just gives it a little bit more luster. Okay. I don't know why. I mean,
you said it was a smile on your face.
Yeah, I did yesterday. I did smile, and I was like, well, let's take a look in the MLS and see what's available.
Do you know what is a really? Have you watched Aaron Novello? Somebody, I'll have to send you. We have the link to his. He's a huge list, but he literally is so deadpan. He'll tell you basically, and then he just goes. Any kind of information, his tonality is amazing. And he's this listening agent in South Florida, and he does trainings for listening. So I'll have to send you guys a lot of information. But I always go back to him because he's just basically telling that you're the stupidest seller ever because this price that you want, and he just goes on. And I'm just like, Whatever your price is, your price is. I don't know, so it's I think for people like us, we're very high. And so.
Do you think there's a difference though in a man speaking that way versus a woman?
I think it's on his body. I think it's his confidence.
Okay.
Because it's not just his voice and his tone that's confident, it's his body language and it's what he's saying. He's so incredibly confident in what he's about to say, even if he's not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, so I'll write that down because I'll forget.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with pets, right? Like you can say whatever you want to your dog, but if you do it in a nice way or friendly way, then they're like, oh, okay. People are kind of the same way.
Yeah, I think that the tone makes it. I mean, I think you can control it, but I also think one of the things you can do too, and I do this all the time, and I look crazy, is when you're in your car by yourself and you're not on the phone. Just, I mean, it's scripting, but at the same time, like it's not. I mean, just sit there and go through and hear how it sounds and change it 4 or 5 times. The video that I did for you, I mean, I literally did it 12 times probably to myself before I put it on.
I was gonna ask you how many times you went through it.
Did you record that scene? So maybe next time you have the Zoom, record it and then listen back.
Oh, okay.
Just that's
Well, I asked Brandy. She was like, "No, it was fine." I was like, "Are you sure?"
Brandy knows you.
Yeah. Okay. Only for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's not very long.
And what have you learned? Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time in my car just out loud speaking. Out loud speaking. I do it all the time. My husband thinks I'm absolutely bonkers because I'll pick up his phone call and I'll still continue. If I'm on a roll on something, I'll continue. I'll be like, hang on, and I'll finish out my thoughts. Because it's just like, I mean, to me, it's the same as learning lines, right? I mean, it's the same concept. It's in my
yeah, of course.
It's in my voice, and I feel confident in it. And like before I get on the phone to negotiate something, I'll run through it out loud. I have no idea what they're going to say. So it's not like I could be super like responsive, but I can get out the major talking points I want to convey. I can figure out how to say them, and I can hear it out loud in my car. If you want to take it a step further, record it and play it back to yourself.
Yeah.
Great idea.
My mom.
I talk in the car all the time.
It's like a listening presentation. I will, on the way to it, I do the entire, I like make up how the listening's gonna go in the car, and I say it out loud, and I say it, and I'm gonna pretend like knowing what the pre-call was and what I think his or her sticking points are, but I do the entire presentation on the way to the house. I have time. And I didn't realize why I did that. For me, it was to get out the jitters, the nervousness.
No, I think it's to.
It usually never goes that way, but at least in my mind, I have some way it's going to go.
You feel like you have a plan.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would recommend is there's this app called Marco Polo, and you can get your friends on it. And so like that has helped me. What I'll do is I'll send a voice message. It's basically like a video message that you send to a friend or whatever, and then I'll watch mine back. So it's just a conversation I would normally have with my friend, but I realized how many times I said or how I lost my train of thought or things like that. And so it's in a it's going to someone, but it's still in a non like judgy space.
Yeah.
And I'm not just so that's been helpful for me.
I usually watch it because I find myself amusing. I just play back my stuff.
Oh, Robbie's like, if I have to watch this video you made 2 days ago one more time, I'm gonna lose my mind. He hates it, but I do it all the time because I want to learn what I want to see what I did.
Yeah.
He's like, you're obsessed. Like you're obsessed.
I'm obsessed with myself.
I am not. I just want to understand what I did and what worked and what did. You know what I mean?
How do I sound?
Or I'm obsessed with one or the other, or I'm obsessed with myself.
Which is okay. You should be obsessed with yourself. Great.
Oh, thanks. You're delightful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I will I'll try to pull a couple. I mean, I know, and with COVID, I don't know how everything's up and running, but like there are a handful of like really great companies in the area that do like professional training. If you guys have anyone that's on the Zoom or just in general, if you have teams and you want me to come in and like do a little bit more like in-depth stuff, like I'm happy to share. I'm always really happy to. Yeah, I'm always really happy to share this again because it's mostly spiting my parents who told me I would never use this degree. So that's the bulk of it. So yeah, but thank you guys for having me.
Do you feel comfortable teaching an improv class or doing something like that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be super fun. And I think all useful skills.
Can there be alcohol at that class?
Yeah, I know, right? So
Sure.
listen up a little bit.
Session one we'll just do a boost up and then we'll come back and tackle it.